Classic Game Shrine, everyone. Today I am going to show you guys the entirety of my Virtual Boy collection and go a little bit more in depth than just kind of passively talking about things or doing like a video on an individual thing every once in a while. I talk about the Virtual Boy a lot on my channel, but I realized I don't actually show my collection in depth, so that's what this is going to be. So buckle up and let's get started. So I have a Detolf case from IKEA here, and this is what I keep majority of my Virtual Boy things in, because my cat likes to knock everything over. So to show you everything, I'm going to start inside the case, top to bottom, and then there's a couple magazines on the side, and a couple boxes and things up top. So, obviously, what you're looking at here is a Virtual Boy. This is the United States or North American model versus the Japanese, which I don't have. We have the Virtual Boy controller. This controller has the battery pack with it. This is the original medallion. Mine cracked in half and broke. I kind of glued it together to keep in my little collection for display. This here is a little epoxy resin Virtual Boy controller that I made when I had leftover stuff when I was doing custom amiibo. Here is the little Virtual Boy and the stand. In here are boxed headphones that came for the Virtual Boy in Japan. Let me slide it out here. So as you can see, they're a nice red and black color, and they go really well with the Virtual Boy console itself. They don't sound too bad even given the time. What you're looking at here though is a perler bead Virtual Boy that I did years ago. It's probably gonna fall now. This here is a steel milled medallion replacement made by one of the community members. His name is Tony. And I actually have one of his other medallions on the stand here. Let me take this out without making too much of a mess. Let's see if I can just turn this around without making a disaster. So yeah, here you go. This is the other version of the medallion that he made. This one is black to match the stand with the natural silver of the steel coming through with Nintendo and Virtual Boy in the correct font. So that pretty much covers this shelf. Oh, actually, no, it doesn't. I forgot. I have my little promotional Hudson Soft pin that was given out at, I think it was E3 or CES, one of those back in the 90s when the Virtual Boy was new. Although it died when it was still new, so. This shelf is kind of the one I get a lot of questions about, at least the contents that are on it. In the back, it's just a Virtual Girl perler bead that I don't get too many questions on, but the things I get the most questions on are this amiibo, which I'll grab it so you can see. This is a Virtual Boy Wario Land amiibo custom that I made, including the box. This is actually a crappy one. I've made a few for people and I've sold them when the amiibo were more plentiful and affordable for folks. And those are significantly better than the one I have for myself. So, you know, practice makes perfect. So this here is a deck of cards from the Japanese Club Nintendo. It's your typical 4-suit cards with your numbers and your kings and queens, etc. But this is just the front artwork on the cards. I wish it was more than just Mario's Tennis. I wish it had like all of the game artwork on there, but I'm sure Nintendo wasn't going to put too much effort into a Virtual Boy thing. So this pin here is another promotional pin. It was given to sales folks at different stores to help promote the Virtual Boy. You can kind of see it moving on a video. It's not that great. But there was also a matching vest that is quite a bit of money, but I'd love to eventually get one day, maybe. And the main centerpiece of this shelf is the Virtual Girl. Short and sweet. On Planet Virtual Boy years ago, we made a joke saying there should be a Virtual Girl and a Virtual Boy. I had a parts console and I made this. And then eventually it was made to work. And I took it to video game conventions and acquired a bunch of signatures. A lot of those signatures are people I now am pretty close with and am so grateful to know now. and to think it was all through a Virtual Boy. But yeah, there's quite a few signatures on here. Let me see if I can take it out. I'll go through what's on there. The scribble that's on there is what's left of Shane Lewis's signature, and what's left of this is Adam Karlik's signature. They got worn off through play. Alrighty then. So we'll start on the top. This one right here is Kinsey's signature from the Metal Jesus crew. There's Shane Lewis's from Re-Res. There's Gilly the Kids. We have Metal Jesus. We have Kelsey Lewin from the Metal Jesus crew. On the side here, we have Ian Ferguson. We have Reggie Williams. We have John Riggs. That scribble between the arrows is Adam Karlik's signature. He had to, he likes to add to it every couple of years, so it's now become a bit of a tradition every time I see him. So now it went from the scribble to his name printed to just recently Adam fucking Karlik. So I like it. On the front, we have Norm, the gaming historian. Underneath him, we have David Crossan, one of the original presenters of Classic Game Room. We have the late Terry Diebold, the old owner of the SNES CD prototype. We have James Rolfe, AVGN. And we have Pat Contry, the NES Punk. So those are all the signatures that I have on it right now. There's a couple more that I'd like to get, but I'm sure I'll grab them when I move back to the East Coast, or if I happen to attend a convention that's going on while I'm there. So let's move down a shelf. And this shelf is where I'm going to be keeping like my books. I want to do some reorganizing, but for the most part, this is the Jeffrey Wittenhagen's Virtual Boy book that I have here. And next to it will be the Jeremy Parrish Virtual Boy book. I got the collector's edition one. I'm really excited to have that and display it. His work on the videos was fantastic, so the book can only be better. Some of the things down here that you'll find, people ask me, what is this? This is kind of like a Raspberry Pi-esque Google Cardboard do-it-yourself Virtual Boy Classic, for lack of a better word. Excuse me. Basically, this has a little computer built in here, a screen that feeds into these 3D printed 3D glasses, and there is a port that you can connect a USB controller so that you can load it up with ROMs and play Virtual Boy games. Unfortunately, I wear glasses, so it doesn't work with my face, but it's a neat thing to have anyway. Now, what's next to it, people often confuse for a consoleized Virtual Boy, but it's not. It's just the Virtual Boy cart programmer. I did a full video on this, and it's quite a nifty thing. I use it to flash games to those two carts there, and I use it to dump ROMs for certain games that I have. So what other goodies? We have this little 3D printed universal tripod stand for the Virtual Boy. Basically, you slide the headset in here, and then you would screw this piece onto a tripod. Let's see, this is something that was gifted to me in my very early days of Planet Virtual Boy. This is a 3D printed clip to the stand for the Virtual Boy. Mine is broken on the original one, and they were kind enough to send me one for free and have it printed. And I have an extra one that I keep here just in case I lose it or it breaks or something like that. Now this little thing here is a USB adapter for the Virtual Boy controller. This is how I emulate most of my Virtual Boy games, and it's freaking great. One of my favorite things in the Virtual Boy collection out of like the Homebrew stuff. Speaking of Virtual Boy controllers and USB adapters, that's what this is here. This is one that I kind of patched together with an existing kit from Retro USB, and it's a USB LED Virtual Boy controller. Now this wire here is the Virtual Boy link cable. There's a few Homebrew games that are out Hyper Fighting is one of them. You'll see it down here. Also, there's a Mario's Tennis with the 2-player version unlocked, and a couple other homebrew games that you can get that will utilize this, and I'm pretty sure there's more in development as we speak. This wire here is the USB link cable for the Virtual Boy. At the moment, this doesn't have a use, but I wanted to have it anyway for if and when it does get a use. So that brings us to our last shelf, and this is all of my games. I would say it's 50-50, I guess, with what's real boxes and what's reproduction boxes. I'll show you which ones are reproduction boxes as we go along. So it's not going to come as any surprise to anyone that these 4, the Virtual Lab, Virtual Bowling, SD Gundam Dimensions War, let's see, and Space Invaders are reproduction games, boxes, and manuals. But those are the only ones that I've gone full-blown reproduction on. I'll take them out so you guys can see the artwork on the boxes. If you've watched my adventures in the 3rd dimension, you've seen the cart artwork, so I'm not going to take those out. Here's Virtual Bowling. I love the sexy lady in that little, or not animation, that screenshot in the back. This is SD Gundam Dimension War. This is one game I had no idea what I was doing the entire time I played it, but I still managed to beat it. Now, Space Squash. This is real box, real manual, real cart, everything. And since I am not going to fork up the $1,500 or so that they want for the American Jack Brothers, I settled for the Japanese one. And this one is also complete in box. $60 versus $1,200 or $1,500. I'll take the $60. This one here is Virtual Fishing. This one is all real as well. Most of my Japanese games that I have are legitimate complete in box. This one was the last game for me to collect before I completed my collection of games, and it's also one of my favorite Virtual Boy games. It's a first-person shooter. It's kind of like Doom on the Virtual Boy, but based on an H.P. Lovecraft novel. It's pretty cool. And V-Tetris. This is the better of the Tetris games on the Virtual Boy. The other one is basically a glorified blockout. So now we get to some of the homebrew stuff. Excuse me. And this is my Hyper Fighting complete in box. It's one of the few games I have the protective case for. I should probably get more, honestly. Over here is the Thunderstruck Space Invaders homebrew. This one has a custom splash screen with my face on it and my name, and they're individually numbered. Come on, go back in there. There we go. Here we have the Flash Boy Plus complete in box. This is so primitive compared to the Flash, or the Hyper Flash 32. But I'm so glad that we had this. And speaking of the Hyper Flash, here's the box. Everything is inside. I love this little cart. I also love Doo-Doo. He's so cute. It's fascinating to see all the things that are still being done with it. So here is another one. This is a recent acquisition to my collection. And some of you that follow me on Twitter may know, but for those of you that don't, I recently got the Mario's Tennis display-only box that came only from Blockbuster if you owned the store. So I was super stoked when I saw this on eBay and the seller accepted my offer. Even has the Blockbuster label on it still. It came with the game. There we go. Just take it out. I'm only taking this one out because I like showing people the stickers. It's really cool. Okay, I'll put that away in a moment. So back to the bottom, we have the Space Invaders cart. This one is also a reproduction box, manual, and cart. So back to real games with real boxes, real manuals, etc. We have Virtual Boy Wario Land. This one was a pain to find the box. Everything else was easy, but the box for the North American territory was a pain. I mean, it's a good game. I'll forgive them. Next up, we have Vertical Force, which is another good game. And I love how it still has the sticker on there. Well, some of it. We have Red Alarm. And we have Golf. This is a reproduction box, but the manual and the cart are real. Let's see. Excuse me. My throat is very dry today. This is also a reproduction box, but again, the manual and the cart are real. I have the real manuals, but a few reproduction boxes. Telra Boxer is another one with a reproduction box. You'll see by the saturation of the colors. Oops. Oh, here's another one. This game. So what we have here is the Japanese version of Virtual League Baseball. This one's real, complete in box, and just as much of a pile of crap as the American one. We have Waterworld here. This is a reproduction box, but a legitimate manual and cart. We have 3D Tetris here. Speaking of another crappy game, this is the actual Virtual League Baseball, and I still want to light it on fire. Nothing's changed since I reviewed it. This is Mario Clash with a reproduction box. Legitimate manual and cart, though. We have Galactic Pinball with a reproduction box, but legitimate manual and cart. Might as well just grab both. So, Nestor's Funky Bowling with a legitimate manual and cart and reproduction box. And a very, very, very reproduction Mario Tennis box for my real cartridge that isn't a Blockbuster rental. But I have a legitimate cart and manual for that one. So, briefly showed you these before. These are just reprogrammable carts for the cart programmer above. That's one size, and here is the other size. There is one more size, but I just don't have it. So let's move on to the Nintendo Power magazines that I have. Of course, I would have this one. And I have it with the cards and the not sunglasses, and the 3D glasses. I can pull them out. So cool. I also have a couple other issues of Nintendo Power that mention Virtual Boy things and cover topics on it. These aren't all of the ones that mention it, but these are some of them. I like going back in them as well and looking at the old articles and the old ads. It takes me back to a simpler time. But that's everything that's in the case. So let's bring ourselves up. And we will look at the Blockbuster rental case for the Virtual Boy. I have a replacement foam in it. It's not the original. It was deteriorated and dust by the time I got this. So I have a nice one that somebody made in the community, and it fits everything like a glove. This here is just an extra power supply for the Virtual Boy. And those are some wires to connect some of the Homebrew things. This is a Nintendo Labo, and it's kind of irrelevant, but this is my new old stock Virtual Boy box. I have the manual inside, but I don't have the cardboard that held everything in it, unfortunately. But, you know, I'll take what I can get, you know? And that's pretty much it, guys. That is my Virtual Boy collection. I hope you all enjoyed. If you have questions on anything in particular, feel free to let me know in the comments. And until next time, guys, take care.